Hi, hello. Welcome back. Moon Griffon Show. Great to have you with us. 844-766-6607. Hickson has it hotline. As you know, the governor has come up with a big plan. I know some of the business organizations have spoken out. We've got the president of the lobby, Mr. Stephen Waguespack, joins us with Lobby Louisiana Association of Business and Industry. Stephen, good morning.
Hey, good morning, Moon. Thanks for having me on, man.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right. Everybody's read about it. We've documented it here. Talk a little bit about what the governor has floated out, just the pros and cons of what you see so far in the plan that he put out.
Yeah, no, the proposal is basically referred to as a gross receipts tax. And a couple of states have tried it. Some of the ones that have tried it have moved away from it almost as soon as they put it on the books because it didn't help their economy. And basically what it says is, look, the first receipt that comes in the door gets taxed. And here's why it's a little different for a business. Let's say there's a hardware store or a restaurant, down the road. They may have they may be a low margin but high receipt business. They bring $1 million a year in receipts, but it might cost them almost $1 million a year in payroll and expenses and shipping and all that stuff to earn that. And if you move to a gross receipts tax, basically you tax that first $1 million almost, and it's pretty harmful for a low margin business, especially the small to mid-sized companies. And my concern is Louisiana is a service-based economy. Mm-hmm. We got a lot of small to mid-sized companies that, partner with other industries, and they feed off the oil and gas industry and the chemical industry and the ag industry. And a gross receipts tax seems to target those service-based type companies and encourage vertical integration. And I'm worried that some of the big guys would be okay, but those service companies would really be left out in the cold. And I think it's the worst thing we could do for Louisiana, even in good times, but especially in a recession like this.
Yeah, and I'm glad you said, Stephen Waguespack would lobby our special guest. I'm glad you said that about the recession. I mean, Louisiana's, there's certain areas of the state still doing okay, but overall, it's kind of been a struggle, Stephen, and that's what I don't understand. This is the worst time to raise taxes, not the best time. The budget's up about 6 or 7% from last year. It's not like they don't have money flowing in right now when they do have money flowing in. And the tax you're talking about, I noticed 4 or 5 states have already gotten rid of it. They said it's not good for their economy. It's not good for their businesses. I'm just wondering, is just something they've thrown on the wind hoping it sticks, maybe seeing if it'll stick and then go back to their original plan? What do y'all feel like at this time, what they're trying to do?
Well, it kind of came out of nowhere. And, a couple of weeks ago, we heard they were bringing this concept up, and it wasn't really discussed in the off season at this task force report and all that. And so when it came out of nowhere, we were a little, left scratching our heads. And so I think the proof's in the pudding over the next couple of weeks. Is the governor going to go out and really sell this plan? And does he really truly believe in it? Or is this being rolled out just so that it can be something to stand for and the legislature is going to kill it? And when they do, he can say, well, there they go. Those partisanship, guys are just playing games again. So the question is this a policy he really believes in? Or is this a political tactic he's throwing out just to kind of, give something that's obviously, not a good policy so that when the legislature does what they need to do and kill it, then all of a sudden he can, play the blame game with them and point the finger.
One of the things I kind of get a little frustrated with is that they are blaming tax exemptions for the problem. Now, Stephen, you've been involved in the process. You've watched all this work for many, many years. I read an article today. I think it was Tyler Bridges said the legislature has inherited and this legislation, this governor inherited all these problems from Bobby Jindal and from the legislature. And the problem is they didn't inherit anything. They created it. This problem was created by government. Now, my question is, how are they going to fix it? Because they created it. I inherited it. You might have inherited it, but they didn't inherit it. They created this situation that we're in right now.
Well, 2 thoughts on it. You're exactly right, but 2 thoughts on it. One, when it comes to the exemptions, the legislature spent 4 of the last 6 sessions really whacking at a lot of those business exemptions. And so, look, they're all down. Inventory credit's down 60%, M&E's down, utilities down. They're all down. And so, some of that's come down a good bit. But the other piece is this. Look, we've been putting lipstick on a pig for 90 years.
Yep.
The model we created decades and decades ago was we send all of the tax dollars to Baton Rouge. We hope that they spend it right and it trickles back down. And I think what we finally realize is that model's busted. It's bankrupt.
Yep.
And the states that are good, Texas, Georgia, Florida, Tennessee, the ones in the South that we want to be like, they keep their tax dollars closer to the people. They keep them local. They don't send it to the state capitol hoping that some magic wand can be waved by the bureaucracy and fix everything, because that doesn't work. And so, all these exemptions and credits over the years have been used to kind of mask what is the underlying problem is we got to stop sending all the money to Baton Rouge, keep tax dollars local, and have local officials making some of these solutions. That's what Texas does. That's what Georgia does. That's what Florida does. It's time for us to kind of, get in line and do the same thing.
Yeah, no doubt about it, but that seems to be the problem. I agree with you. The exemptions, they've been moving for a while, but let's talk about why the exemptions were created. The exemptions were created because we've not been a friendly business state for a long time.
Exactly.
And a matter of fact, I heard a guy on this morning with another group talking about how in our state we have high taxes, our corporate taxes, the income tax, all that stuff's real high. Now, they do give a bunch of exemptions, but the exemptions were given to businesses to either make them stay, and even under Governor Jindal and Governor Foster and Blanco to make them stay, or to allow somebody to come here. They were given tax breaks, but they were because our business taxes were so tough on our businesses.
Oh, without a doubt, we're extremely uncompetitive when it comes to our tax code, how it's collected. Now that not even to mention how we sue people left and right here. But the biggest exemptions, I'll give you the top two that you always hear about. One is the S Corp exemption. That's the biggest exemption in the budget. You know what that means? That means you don't pay double tax. That means if you're a company and you file your business taxes through the personal income tax code, you don't have to pay them twice through corporate. In Louisiana, we call that an exemption. Mm-hmm. In other states, they just say don't pay double tax. But for here, it's called an exemption. It looks like a big number, and it's enough for an article in the Advocate. The second biggest one is the inventory tax exemption. The only reason we have that credit, is because we have an inventory tax here, which other states don't have it, because it's extremely uncompetitive. And, 25 years ago, we knew this tax was hurting our ability to get investment. And so instead of eliminating it, like most states would do, we put a credit on top of it. Mm-hmm. And so what it's turned into is an interest-free loan from business to government over the year. Business doesn't like that credit or that tax. They don't want any piece of it. But if Louisiana doesn't want to repeal the tax, then, the credit is the only thing left standing. So we've used credits and exemptions over the years to carpet over a broken foundation of a crummy tax code. And instead of having the guts to fix the foundation, we keep laying carpet over it one year after another.
No, they're great points. Stephen Waguespack, my special guest, of course, president of the Lobby, Louisiana Association of Business and Industry. All right, they're trying to call what you've seen tax reform. It seems to me, well, I'm laughing too. I appreciate you laughing at that because I'm laughing too. It seems like to me this is tax increase. This has nothing to do with reform. And by the way, when they did all these blue panel things that they put together, tax this and road this, they always come back and actually it's the increased taxes on the middle class and businesses. Do you think this is tax reform at all? I mean, just any kind of tax reform?
No, the two terms you hear a lot are tax reform and fiscal reform. And, true tax reform, look, that's something that I would love to see. And true tax reform is instead of using exemptions and credits to put lipstick on a broken tax code, you would instead say, all right, let's do away with the exemptions and credits and let's lower the code and just have a simple, low, flat rate that's fair for everybody. That is true tax reform. That's not all we do. Right now what they do is they take every exemption and credit they can politically muster and they throw it into government spending. That's not tax reform.
No, see,
that's just raising taxes.
I hate to hurt your feelings, though. You're starting to sound like me. Listen, the reason I say that, and I've said it a long time, okay, you really want to get rid of every exemption. I'm all for every one of them. And then make us the friendliest business taxes in the country. In other words, you're going to lower the rates to the lowest possible, and you're going to get out of the way and let businesses do what they do. That would be real tax reform right there, but they don't want that. They want to, but by the way, in all these so-called blue chip panels and all this stuff, nobody talks about spending. Nobody. So how can you have tax reform without having spending reform when they're not talking about spending reform? Matter of fact, if we give them everything they want, is it safe to say we're going to get the same results we've been getting? Because we're not changing anything.
Yeah, because the model's broken. The model is we send all the money we can to Baton Rouge, and we hope they can do things like fix the schools, fix the roads, and get out of a boom-or-bust economy. And for 90-plus years, all we've seen is that model don't work. And so more money is not going to change the faulty assumption that Baton Rouge and the state capital could fix all of our problems. In other states that are successful, their local taxpayers and their local economies and their local communities, they drive their future. They don't expect the capital to do it. The people at the ground level do. And that's where we got to get to.
Have you read anything or seen anything or heard from a lawmaker that is agreeing with Edwards is trying to do and calling and seeing any real spending reform at all. I've not read one thing, and I'm reading everything I can get, but I'm not reading anything where any lawmaker, at least the ones with Edwards, are calling for spending reform. Not one.
Yeah, we're not seeing a lot of that. And the reason why, Moon, is because to really get to spending reform, you got to get past the sound bites and the talking points, and you got to get to some of the real root causes. The reality is $2 billion of our budget goes to a retirement system that is really outdated and needs to be reformed. We are the largest per capita Medicaid spender in the country, and it's not even close. And you got to get to reforming Medicaid. We talk all the time about whether we should expand Medicaid or not. Look, I'm more focused on should we reform Medicaid. Yep. So you got to reform Medicaid, retirement. You got to take all those boards and commissions and other little fiefdoms that have been created with budgets over the years, and you got to look them in the eye and say, listen, unless you can show me an exact, clear purpose and rationale, we're done with you. Thank you for your service. Move on.
Can you hold on?
Those are the ways you really got to touch them.
Can you hold on one more segment?
Sure.
All right, Stephen Waguespack with Lobby. Folks, oh, my God. We'll take a break. This is unbelievable that we've been fighting this, but we're still fighting the same thing we've been fighting. We'll take a break. You're listening to the Moon Griffon Show. Hi, hello. Welcome back. Moon Griffon Show. Great to have you with us. 844-766-6607. Hickson has a hotline. If you'd like to be part of the Moon Griffon Show, it's always open for you to be a voice. We're visiting with Mr. Stephen Waguespack, President and heading up Lobby, Louisiana Association of Business and Industry. Hey, now, Stephen, if y'all taking a stand on anything dealing with, quote, tax reform, is there an angle that, I'm just asking, I mean, y'all lobbyist group like a lot of other people, are you got any angle that y'all taking a turn on this? Are you waiting to see what comes out of it? Are y'all going to support road taxes? Where are y'all going to be on in some of this stuff?
I think we're trying to get a little bit more information on this gross receipts tax concept that the governor put out. I mean, thus far we can't find anything, good about it, or other states have tried it or telling us to, get away from it. So, obviously we're extremely, uncertain about it. But the governor has said he's going to come out with some additional details on it and try to modify some of the sharp edges of this thing. So we're kind of waiting to see on that. But having said that, we're really just trying to be in a little bit of a response mode to kind of work with the legislature. Last year when they were doing a lot of different moving parts, we just targeted a couple of things we really wanted to make a strong case on. One, the inventory tax. We think it's a really harmful tax. Makes it very uncompetitive. You can't tax a company for just having inventory because they'll just move the inventory out of state. So that's a key priority. And then the manufacturing inputs. We're trying to grow a manufacturing economy here in Louisiana. And so the legislature the last couple of years has really tried to go and raise taxes on some of those inputs to make us uncompetitive. And so we're trying to push against that. Those are the big two that we're really trying to educate folks not to go after. And then besides that, we're trying to, be open to hearing what they have to think. But we're waiting for them to bring some spending reform proposals, and we think there's some ways to go about that. They just haven't had much interest in that.
Yeah, what about on the road tax? Are y'all taking an interest in that yet? And the only reason, my big problem with that is I know it takes taxes to fix roads. But why did they allow it to get to, quote, $13 billion in the hole? Number two is, if you really look at the history of road taxes, we haven't fixed roads. I mean, the time program is a perfect example of here's the tax, here's what it's going to fix, and it didn't do it. So are y'all there yet, or y'all hadn't talked about that a whole lot?
Well, on that one, I would say there's no issue in government that better defines the lack of trust people have in government than infrastructure. If you go around the state and ask folks about roads or bridges or ports or whatever's in your area, everyone says, oh, we got to do something. But when you ask them about the gas tax, a lot of times what you'll hear is, oh, wait a minute, I'm not sure about that because I'm not sure they're going to spend the money on what they tell me. And that's because of years and decades and everyone, not handling that money appropriately. And so what we've said is, look, we think the governor needs to come out and be crystal clear. How much is he looking for? What projects does he want to do? What is the transparency and accountability he can promise the people to show exactly where it's going to go to?
Yeah, but can I stop you a second?
Our members have said if it's reasonable, they'd be open to it, but we haven't seen that specificity yet.
But the problem with what you said is, and I understand what you said. I understand that you got, board members and y'all got to decide it together. So yeah. I'm understanding that part of it. But I'm not understanding is that's what the time program did. The time program had the roads they were going to fix and when they were going to fix them and blah, this and blah. Just pretty much what you said. It didn't get done. And that's my frustration with it. I know we got to fix roads. But, man, somebody allowed it to get to $13 billion. If that number's correct, I'm only using their numbers. Why did it come to the business community and everybody say, look, we're $1 billion behind on this road project? we better do something about it. And then we say, okay, fine, but tell me what you did with the money we gave you.
You're exactly right, and there's a lot of blood on a lot of hands on that issue. Just last week I was in the North Shore, and I was talking to a group there, kind of in that Mandeville, Covington area, and they were saying the exact same thing. They said, look, we were told in the time program, if we passed this tax, we would see this bridge built in this area, and, decades later it's still not there, and so they feel burned. And I think there's a lot of folks in the state like that. And so, look, the trust has been broken. There's no doubt about that. And so it's not going to, I don't think you can just roll out a proposal and people say, yeah, I'll trust again. There has to be a rebuilding of that trust. It's got to start with a clear conversation. It's got to start with some clear language so that folks know exactly where dollars would go. Because I just think the hope and faith approach is not going to work this time.
Let me ask a quick question. What's wrong with a 2-year, I'm just throwing this at you, 2-year standstill budget, the 2016 budget, we're doing that for 2 more years. Once the lawmakers prove to us that they can handle that, then we can come back and then we can talk about taxes. What's wrong with making them be responsible first? I promise you, Stephen, first of all, if I was your son, you'd have put knots on my head a long time ago. But if I was your son and you sent me to the store with a $100 bill to get 10 items, and I came back with no money and 3 items, you wouldn't give me another $100 bill to go get the next 7 items. Matter of fact, you would spank me, put me in a room. You'd take away the car keys. You would be livid with me. You wouldn't just reward me with another $100. I don't think you would do that.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. And look, a 2-year strategy like that, that's one way to rebuild that trust. Trust is rebuilt in a lot of different ways, but it's got to start with honesty. But
can I stop you? You can't trust, but saying, okay, here's some more money. We trust y'all going to do what's right. How about show us what you're going to do with it? Look, they had $2.8 billion in new money. We got one of the highest budgets we ever had. I'm talking about state money. Well, my God, show us what you're going to do with that first. And I don't see that because there's been no spending changes. They're not going to have any spending changes. Giving more money is not going to be the solution.
Look, let me tell you something. We are $4 billion larger as a budget than we were 15 months ago. We are $1.3 billion more in state tax dollars more than we were 15 months ago. The budget's up. The revenues are up. Everything's up. Your point's crystal clear, and it's right. Look, the budget keeps going up every single year, yet all we're told is another deficit. Right now, the way we define deficit in Louisiana, it's a deficit of government wants, not needs. And whatever government wants, if they're short of it, that's a deficit. We got to redefine that. It's got to be, look, when a recession, when all the families and small business are doing whatever it takes to stay afloat, government needs to have that type of mindset. Yeah. And you need to go work even harder during those times to be efficient to the taxpayer.
Stephen Waguespack, Lobby, thank you, sir. We'll do it again.
Thank you. You have a good day.
All right. Trying to know what the business community is thinking as part of what they're thinking. We'll take a break. You're listening to the Moon Griffon Show. We'll be right back. Hi, y'all. Welcome back. Moon Griffon Show. Great to have you with us. 844-766-6607. Hickson has a hotline if you'd like to be part of the Moon Griffon Show. Well, there it is. That's one business industry and their take on what's going on. But now they were not against the road tax. Brandon, I don't know if you heard that. He was not totally against the road tax. I still think a 2-year budget. How about we change this? The legislature, for once, has to be responsible. 2-year budget, stand still, make it work. If you want money in education, give it. You want money in health care, give it to them. But something's going to suffer. And they suffer for a couple years and show us they're responsible for what they got, and then we'll give them a little bit more money. But that's not what they want. Give us the money first, and then we're going to show y'all how good we're going to do. That hadn't worked. It's never worked. By the way, Scott Angel, Public Service Commissioner, back in the news, according to the McGinnis newsletter. I say McGinnis. Let me see what they call that thing. I don't know if they changed it or not. Louisiana Politics Weekly. Scott Angel's in here. This guy does not know what a private sector job looks like. Both Bloomberg and Politico are reporting that Public Service Commissioner Scott Angel is being vetted to head up the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management, which is the lead agency over offshore energy in the Interior Department. It's said to be a serious exercise that has the backing of key Louisiana players. Has that dude ever had a private sector job? Ever had a private sector job? I've had to live in a private sector all my life. Has he ever had one? Did he ever work at a grocery store, cut grass, anything? I hope they don't show that film of him trying to defend the state on the oil and gas industry. I got it, but I'm not going to play it. I mean, it must be nice. It must be nice. All you got to do is go around and talk for a living. Brandon's going, what do you do?
Yeah, you don't know nothing about that, huh, Moon? That's why I looked at you kind of funny.
Yeah, but here's the difference. I don't have the government paying my bills. I mean, gee whiz. Ooh, I think about it. That's why I was never worried about Scott. He's going to fall up in some government something. People that were worried about him because he lost, don't worry about that, folks. There's another government sucker out there that will hire him. I just shake my head. I can't help it. It must be nice to be able to just fall up. By the way, Judge Neil Gorsuch, Supreme Court nominee, they're saying they're going to get it done this week. I do not care if they have to use changing of the rules that the Democrats made to get Judge Neil Gorsuch confirmed. I hope they do. I do that one. I do the next one, too. I wouldn't let the Democrats obstructionists they just horrible. They haters of everybody. Yet people think the Democrats do good by people. They don't play by the rules. They don't care. And then God knows we had Republicans vote for Obama's two young Supreme Court justices, not liberal, but Marxists. And Republicans voted for them. Telling y'all, folks, Democrats destroying people. They destroy lives one day at a time. If you don't believe me, go look at the inner cities. And those people vote for them every time, only to be just as poor and uneducated as they were before they voted for them. And to vote for them again and again and again and again. I mean, you talk. By the way, Nancy Pelosi was in New Orleans bragging about Obamacare. The lady that told us, you want to see what Obamacare looks like? You got to vote for it before you find out what's in it. By the way, you heard about what Jerry Jones wants to do? He does not want them to be tested for marijuana in the NFL anymore.
Well, of course not.
I wonder why.
Yeah.
Well, Brandon, I think that will pass. If you look at the marijuana laws and the changes in the marijuana laws, they come in here, too. They're going to go all over the country. We're going to legalize more drugs. Please don't call here if you think marijuana will be legalized. I really don't give a rat's poop what you think. They're going to do it. They're going to do it anyway. I mean, we now have laws for men to become women to go in the bathrooms. I mean, why would they not change that up? I mean, we've changed society overnight on marriage. It's not changing in God's eyes. We can change all the laws we want to. I never thought we would see about women going in men's bathroom because they feel like it that day. I mean, Brandon, I just never thought we can go that low. And we got, they took the NBA All-Star from North Carolina because they made a law saying, okay, if you're born a male or you're born a female, that's the bathroom you're going, ooh! And it's been one of the most vocal people against it. Coach K at Duke.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm going, my God, Coach K. My God. There was no hate in the law at all. But they made it sound like that was the most hateful law ever. Nothing hateful about it. I know I go in a man's bathroom. My little boy knows he goes in a man's bathroom. And my little girl, Maddie, special needs child, knows she goes in the ladies' bathroom. She knows that. We don't know that as a country. Gee whiz. Nothing surprises me. Let's go to James in Sulphur. Good job of twisting everything when you go to talk to him. Okay? You need him to just do a standstill budget and make them show us where we are right now in the state of Louisiana and where we need to be. And if they tell you more money's going to get you there, I hate to be ugly, but I want to be honest, they're lying. It's no way that they're going to get there because we give them more of our hard-earned pay. And you heard Waguespack say we had a recession. You heard other people say it. I've said it. It's kind of crazy to continue to watch this, but this is what we're watching. This is what the guys and ladies are telling us. They're coming back and telling people this. I just worry if I knew if every Republican that was in the legislature would do what they said they were doing in their campaign ad, we wouldn't even be worried. I would not be worried about what's going to happen in this session. If all the Republicans just did what they said, they have the House, they have the Senate. When you read stuff in this article like I read today, but in the Senate, John Hilario-led Republicans, they team up with the governor. They work with the governor. Well, Hilario's doing it. He's worked with every governor that ever came along. When he was Senate president under Bobby Jindal, he did what Bobby wanted. He didn't do what was right. John Hilario is not about right and wrong. You know, I had a friend of mine who was a head of the state police and one at the top, and when Edwin Edwards was in office. Not going to mention his name, and I don't know if he still listens to me. But he mentioned one time and ended up losing his job or retiring because he couldn't handle it anymore. And he said one time they were in a meeting with Governor Edwin Edwards back then. And Edwards wanted to do something. And he mentioned to Edwards, he said, well, Governor, that's not right. I mean, it's not right. You shouldn't do that. It's just immoral. And he turned to that guy and said, what do you mean immoral? What do you mean right or wrong? He said, this is what we're going to do. He said, I don't care about right and wrong. He said, this is what we're going to do. The guy couldn't believe he made the comment, but I believe that. I believe that's who Edwards was. You people that like him and love him and think he was something, God bless you, is all I can tell you. He destroyed his state, and Hilario is a clone of him. John Hilario does whatever the governor wants to do. John Hilario doesn't know right from wrong because he don't care. He doesn't care what's right and what's wrong. We got people in government who do not care what's right and wrong. You know why he became a Republican? He said, so I can be Senate president. So when he's under Edwin Edwards, if Edwin Edwards wants to send us in the wrong direction, he's fine with it because he don't care about right and wrong. Then years later, he's a Senate president under Bobby Jindal, who, by the way, Jindal put him there. He doesn't care about right and wrong. What kind of deal can I make? I'm the dean of the legislature. So you got to have people who care about right and wrong. John Hilario doesn't care about right and wrong. John Hilario's never going to. Bell Edwards wants to tax little babies coming into the state. If we had a bunch of little babies coming, tax little babies. Wouldn't bother him. He didn't care if businesses are hurting. He didn't care if businesses are trying to get over the top. He could care less. What do you want, Bell Edwards? Okay, let's raise the taxes. He was there when Bobby Jindal was, quote, cutting all these taxes. By the way, they keep blaming Jindal for cutting Stelly. He didn't cut Stelly. He ran in front of the train that was going to cut Stelly so he can take credit for it. The legislature cut Stelly. They cut it. They got rid of it. Best thing we ever did. Matter of fact, I hadn't had a chance to get to it, but Jim Beam, Deputy Press Secretary for Bell Edwards, another great article. That old Jim's writing them good articles. You know, another great article on income tax. And he's about half, it again. And he keeps coming back and telling people that like Charles here. People that like Jim reading his articles, they believe that crap. You know, this tax exemptions. I'm right on this. The tax exemptions were created to help businesses because we were such a horrible business climate in the state of Louisiana. So they started giving all these exemptions. And they gave all these exemptions. And we said back then when they were giving the exemptions, I got mad when Jindal did it and the rest of them did it. Because what they were doing, they were picking the winners and the losers. We said this 1 billion times on this program. We talked about why don't we just make it a friendly tax state for businesses where the ones that are here can benefit from it, expand employment, give pay raises. And the ones that were out of the state, when they would look and see what was happening in Louisiana, they wouldn't have to negotiate a deal with a governor or the legislature. You wouldn't have to, well, other states are doing that. So what? If you had the friendliest business atmosphere in the country, you wouldn't have to give anything to anybody. They would come in, you wouldn't tax them to death, and they would prosper from it, and they would hire people. Manufacturing companies, they like to deal with less taxes so they can make it. Businesses that are trying to hire people are hiring people so they can be successful. Good businesses pay people well. CenturyLink, right there in good old Monroe, Louisiana, is a perfect example of a company growing from within. Great salaries, retirement, stock options, insurance, all the stuff that you would like to see with a company that grows right here in Louisiana. Even they've gotten breaks. But I guarantee you, none of these companies would need one penny from us. See, the argument is that if we're giving tax breaks, that's money that could be used for government. That's money that could be used for government. That's what the argument is. Well, we need to get all this money back from government, then we'll have plenty of money to take care of government. They're going to spend it all. They're going to spend it all. They're going to put more money into health care and more money into higher ed and more money into everything. And then years up the road, we're going to need even more to keep up with that. If they had the Stelly income tax, they would have spent every penny of it. You think if they'd had a Stelly income tax, we'd be in great shape, don't you? Oh, we'd be moving right on. Bull. You think they'd have fixed any more roads? Nope. You think they'd have fixed the unaccrued liability? Nope. Tell me what they would have fixed. Tell you what they would have done. They'd have kept everything going in the direction they wanted to go in. And that's the state of Louisiana spinning and spinning and spinning and coming back and telling us, hey, we just got to have more money. When they say they got to have more money, they're telling you, we've been doing everything right. You suckers, you fools, Moon and Brandon and the rest of y'all just not paying enough. If y'all would pay more, do you know how much better we're going to be? And they convince you it's going to be good for business and be good for everything, and it's not, because they're not going to fix the roads. The history is that we've given them money to fix roads. They haven't fixed it. We've given them money to fix health care. Expanding Medicaid is not bright. It's kind of stupid. But Bill Edwards did it, and the press is behind him. Oh, look what we've done. That's costing us more money, something we can't maintain. The federal government's broke, and as soon as they tell the states, look, y'all on your own, boom, watch what's going to happen. They're going to tell you, well, we got to have even more money. The unaccrued liability for the retirement system is waiting to blow up like you're not going to ever believe what they're going to do with that, because they haven't taken care of the business. They haven't fixed anything. Boy, we got a beautiful lake and a beautiful hotel and a beautiful golf course in Delhi. Beautiful. Y'all want to see that thing? We're never going to get the principal back. We lose money every year, but it's pretty, man. The one in John Alario's home area. We got things like that all over this state. $1 billion a year in local government projects that's not the state's business to do. It's not theirs. Why can't they, for once, do a standstill budget and see what they do without giving them money first? Our problem is we give them money first, nothing gets fixed, and then 3 years and 5 years, we need some more money. That don't work at your house. It sure don't work in mine that way. I'm just kind of curious. Do we have enough Republicans and Democrats that are willing to say, I want to be a leader on this? I don't think we do. We know the Senate's dead. We know we have no chance in the Senate of fixing anything because John Alario sits there. You people think I'm wrong on Alario or think I talk about Alario too much? I don't. I ought to talk about him every day. He's the problem. He's the biggest problem we have in Baton Rouge, and lawmakers are scared to death of him. I want to know what's in the damn crab stew. Something's in the crab stew to scare them. I don't know what it is. I don't want none of that crab stew, though, I got to tell you. All right. See you tomorrow. Terrific Tuesday, 22 hours. We'll be back.